Smoke drifted through the burnt-out sky as the ground trembled with distant blasts. The city once full of light now lay in ruins. The war had started without warning, and no one knew why it began or who fired first. But one thing was certain. Now, Earth had become a battlefield. Among the broken towers, a young man named Kale moved alone. He had no armor, no weapon, and no army. He was a delivery worker before the sky turned red. Now all he carried was a small satchel and a memory of his sister's last words. He didn't fight for a flag or a nation. He moved because he had nowhere else to go. The invaders came in ships that covered the sky like metal clouds. Their weapons were not bullets or bombs, but beams that bent gravity. Cities vanished in minutes. The world's defense lines broke like dry sticks. Only pockets of survivors remained, and most of them were too scared to fight. Kale had heard stories in the dark. Stories about a weapon hidden deep in the ruins of old Varnock. A blade that was said to appear once every century. Number. One knew its true shape or its purpose, only that it chose its wielder. Many called it a myth, but desperate people believed desperate things. As he reached the ruins of Varnock, the air changed. It felt heavy and alive, like the ground knew he was coming. The wind whispered in a strange rhythm, and the clouds above circled tightly over one broken plaza. In the center, something long was stuck in the stone. Kale stepped closer and saw the blade. It was not like any weapon he'd ever seen. It glowed with a soft blue light, humming quietly. Ancient symbols ran along the metal, shifting like they were breathing. No one else was around. No guards, no traps. Just the sword waiting. He hesitated. Voices from the past rang in his mind. Warnings, stories. But the silence around him spoke louder. He took a breath, reached forward, and rapped his fingers around the hilt. The moment his hand touched it, the ground shook. The blue light flared. A pulse exploded from the sword, racing through the sky. Across cities and wastelands, every alien soldier stopped. Their helmets lit up, their eyes turned. One word echoed in their minds. One name, one signal. It all pointed to him. Kale fell to one knee, the blade now glowing in his grip. It felt warm, as if it welcomed him. His heart pounded not with fear, but something else. Something ancient and strange. He looked up and saw dark shapes rising in the distance. They were coming, not just to kill him, but to see him. The one who touched the unbeaten blade first. The one the blade chose. Kale didn't know if he was ready. He didn't know if he could survive, but he knew he couldn't run anymore. Not with the entire planet watching him. Asterisk, the blade was now part of him. Kale could feel its energy moving through his veins. It didn't hurt. It didn't burn. It felt like the weapon had been waiting for him all his life. He stood up slowly. The light from the blade dimmed but didn't vanish. It glowed steady and bright. The wind around him was still, as if nature itself paused to see what would happen next. Footsteps echoed across the broken plaza. Dozens of them. Heavy boots striking the cracked ground. Figures emerged from the smoke. Some were human survivors. Others were aliens in long robes with strange symbols glowing on their skin. None of them spoke. Kale gripped the blade tighter. He didn't raise it. He didn't run. He waited. The crowd kept growing. Word had spread fast. The planet was listening. And now it was watching. An alien priest stepped forward. Tall, with dark silver skin and 4 glowing eyes. His voice was deep, calm, and ancient. He didn't sound angry or afraid. He sounded like someone speaking to a prophecy. "You touched the blade," the alien said. "And now the world turns to you. Do you know what that means?" Kale shook his head. "I don't even know what this thing is," he said. "I just grabbed it because I had nothing left. I didn't expect this. Any of this, the priest didn't. Blink, the blade only appears once every 100 years. Many have tried to find it. Many have died for it. But it only wakes for one. That one is called the Bearer. And you are now the Bearer. Kale took a step back. The sword pulsed in his hand. So what does the Bearer do? Lead an army, destroy the aliens, end the war? The priest tilted his head. The Bearer doesn't destroy, he decides. The blade is not a weapon of war, it is a key. A key to the world's next age. You must now choose which path humanity walks. Kale looked around. People were staring, some hopeful, some afraid, some angry. He didn't feel like a leader. He didn't feel like a god. He was just a man with a glowing sword and no idea what came next. Suddenly, the clouds parted. Above, a massive alien ship hovered in the sky, silent and still. Its surface was smooth and black, reflecting the sunlight. From its center, a beam of white light shot down and formed a circle of energy. A voice echoed from the ship. It was loud but clear, and somehow inside every mind. Bearer, approach the gate. The trial begins now. Refuse, and your people will burn. The priest looked at Kale. You must go. The blade has chosen, but you still have a choice. Enter the gate and prove your heart. Or walk away and doom us all. Kale looked down at the sword. It wasn't just glowing now. It was vibrating gently. Alive. He took a breath. Then another. The city around him held its breath too. He stepped forward. 1 foot, then the next. The circle of energy grew brighter. The ship hummed louder. The sword pulled him gently, like a compass pointing to its true north. When Kale reached the center of the light, his body froze. Not from fear, from something greater. Like the world itself was scanning his soul. The sword lit up completely, filling the sky with a blue flash. The last thing he saw was the eyes of the people behind him. No hate, no anger, only hope. Then, the light swallowed him whole, and the gate closed behind him. Kale opened his eyes to silence. There was no sky above him, no ground below. He stood in a glowing white space that had no walls or edges. The sword was still in his hand, but now its light was calm, like it was waiting. He turned slowly, trying to understand where he was. Every step made a ripple in the air, like he was walking on water made of light. The place felt alive, not just a room, but a presence watching him. A voice echoed through the space. It wasn't loud, but it reached deep into Kale's mind. It was not the alien voice from the ship. This one was older, more powerful, like a whisper from the stars. You hold the blade of the unseen makers, the voice said. You have touched a relic from the first war. It does not serve the strong. It serves the worthy. Kale spoke aloud. Who are you? What do you want from me? The voice answered gently. I am the memory of those who came before. I do not command, I test. The blade chose you. Now you must prove why. Kale gritted his teeth. I'm not a soldier. I'm not a leader. I'm not ready for any of this. Many who held the blade said the same, the voice replied. But worth is not about strength. It is about truth. Look now at your truth. The light around Kale changed. Images formed like smoke and light blending into memory. He saw himself as a boy, holding his sister's hand during the first air raid. He saw his father carried away after refusing to obey alien orders. He saw himself standing alone with no one left to protect. Each image hurt, but he didn't turn away. He faced each one, even the moment he left a friend behind during an escape. The shame still burned inside him. The voice spoke again. You do not deny your weakness. That is strength. You do not forget your pain. That is wisdom. But there is one more test. Kale looked down. The blade was floating now, pointing toward a new path. A doorway of black stone rose in the air. On the other side, he saw a city burning. People were screaming. Aliens marched through the streets. Soldiers fired from rooftops. A real war was happening there. This is not a memory, the voice said. This is now one of Earth's last cities. The invaders are breaking through. If you enter, you must fight. If you win, they will follow you. If you fail, all will fall. Kale didn't move right away. He wasn't sure if he could lead anyone. But he remembered the eyes of the people watching him. And he remembered the silence in the moment he touched the sword. It had chosen him for a reason. He stepped toward the doorway. The heat from the burning city hit his face. The sounds grew louder, the cries, the gunfire, the rage. He didn't wait for more words. He jumped through. He landed in a broken street. Fires burned around him. A tank exploded down the block. Soldiers were retreating behind rubble. An alien mech stomped through smoke, its cannon spinning. Kale raised the sword. The blade hummed with energy. A wave of light exploded from it, knocking the mech back and shutting down its weapons. The soldiers stared in shock. One of them shouted, "Who is that?" Another answered, "He's the one. He's the bearer." The aliens paused. Then they opened fire. Kale charged forward, not as a hero, but as a man with no choice but to fight. And the world watched him rise through fire and smoke with the blade glowing in his hand. Kale moved like lightning through the battlefield. The sword guided him, glowing with power as it struck through metal and armor. Alien soldiers fell, not from brute strength, but from the force of something ancient now awakened. The human soldiers began to fight back. Their fear turned into fire. They followed Kale's lead without question. He didn't need to shout orders. Every step he took gave them hope. The mech forces tried to push forward again. But the blade sent out shockwaves that bent their legs and shattered their cores. Smoke rose high into the sky, forming a cloud of burning steel and ash. From above, drones flew in. They targeted Kale with red beams. But the sword pulsed, and a shield of energy formed around him. The drones crashed into the ground like broken stars. In less than an hour, the tide of the battle changed. The humans were no longer running. They were pushing forward. And at the center of the fight, Kale stood like a storm in human form. After the last enemy unit fell, silence returned to the city. People came out from broken buildings, survivors, children, old men, wounded soldiers. They stared at Kale, their faces full of something the world had not seen in years. Faith. A young girl stepped forward and asked, "Are you a king?" Kale knelt to her level. His voice was soft. "No, I'm just someone who picked up the blade." She smiled and touched the sword gently. "Then thank you for picking it up." Kale looked around. The people were gathering, not just to cheer, but to wait, to follow. The sword had turned the battle, but now it had turned their hearts. One of the soldiers approached him. "We have radio signals coming from other zones." They saw what happened. They want to know what to do next. Kale took a deep breath. He wasn't trained for this, but he couldn't ignore it anymore. The blade didn't just choose him to fight. It chose him to lead. "Tell them to gather," he said. "Tell them. The bearer calls. We're not waiting anymore. We're taking Earth back." News of the battle spread like wildfire. Across deserts, forests, and ruined cities, humans rose from hiding. They began to gather, carrying what weapons they had. The bearer had touched the unbeaten blade, and that meant change. But Kale knew this wouldn't be easy. The aliens wouldn't let go of Earth without a final strike. And they had more than soldiers. They had titans. High above, in the orbiting war station, the alien leaders watched the screens. One of them, cloaked in gold, slammed a clawed hand against the console. "He must be destroyed. The bearer has disrupted the cycle." Another one leaned forward. "We failed to retrieve the blade. Now the prophecy activates. The world will turn unless we stop it now." They opened a secure vault. Inside it stood a being in chains, 8 feet tall. Wrapped in dark armor, glowing eyes stared forward, unblinking. The label above read, "The Forgotten Champion." This one beat. "The last bearer," said the gold-cloaked alien. "He knows the blade's power. Release him." Back on Earth, Kale stood on a rooftop with his blade resting across his back. His eyes scanned the horizon. More humans were arriving by the minute. But so was something else. The sky shimmered. As a portal opened, a dark figure stepped through, silent and tall. It didn't carry a weapon. It didn't need to. Its presence was enough to make soldiers step back. Kale felt it too. The blade in his hand began to tremble. Not from fear, but from recognition. The man who stepped through the portal had touched the blade once before, and now he had returned to challenge the one who touched it last. The dark figure stepped forward. Its armor was old and worn, but still strong. Strange markings glowed across its chest. Its helmet covered its face, but its presence filled the air with pressure. Kale stood his ground. His hand tightened around the hilt of the blade. The weapon responded with a soft pulse, as if recognizing the threat before him. The crowd behind Kale slowly backed away. The figure spoke. Its voice was deep, metallic, and without emotion. "I was the last to touch the blade. 100 years ago, it chose me. I brought peace. But peace did not last." Kale stared at him. "Then why are you here now? Why fight me if you were once the bearer?" The figure raised his arm. A second blade formed from his hand. It was made of black energy, flickering with red sparks. Because only one can lead. Only one can carry the true burden. You were not trained. You were not prepared. Kale didn't move, maybe not. But the blade still chose me. That means something. With a sound like thunder, the figure charged. Kale raised his sword and blocked the first strike. Sparks flew in all directions. The ground cracked beneath their feet. The battle between bearers had begun. They moved fast, too fast for the eye to follow. Every strike shook the air. Every dodge sent shockwaves through the buildings. The people below watched from behind cover, their hearts racing. The forgotten champion fought with perfect skill. Every move was sharp, precise, and brutal. But Kale fought with purpose. His blade wasn't just metal. It was memory. It was loss. It was hope. The two blades clashed again. Kale was thrown back, sliding across the street. Blood dripped from his lip, but his grip didn't loosen. He stood again, eyes burning with fire. "I'm not here to be perfect," Kale said. "I'm here because I must. Because this world still has a chance." The old bearer tilted his head. "Then show me that chance." Kale screamed and charged. His blade lit up with a blinding blue light. The sword moved on its own, guiding him through each motion. Strike, block, step, twist, swing. The rhythm became a dance of survival. They fought across the rooftops, through fire, past shattered windows and falling towers. The sky above grew darker as more ships appeared. The alien armies were watching. Waiting for the winner, Kale pushed forward. His strikes became faster. He stopped thinking and started feeling. The blade pulsed with every beat of his heart. It felt like it was alive. And it trusted him. Finally, Kale landed a clean strike. The enemy's blade shattered into dust. The forgotten champion fell to one knee. His helmet cracked. A single eye glowed behind it, filled with something close to regret. "You are not the strongest," the old bearer said, "but you are the truest. The blade has spoken." Kale stood still, breathing hard. He didn't feel like a victor. He felt like someone who had just opened a door he couldn't close. He lowered his blade slightly as the old bearer vanished into fading light. All across the world, the alien armies began to retreat. Ships turned in the sky. Bases powered down. Something in the code had changed. The blade's energy had sent a signal through their systems. Earth was no longer theirs. Kale collapsed to his knees. Soldiers ran to him. Medics checked his wounds. Children stared at him with wide eyes, but Kale didn't speak. He looked at the sky, still holding the blade in one hand. The people began to chant, "Bearer! Bearer!" The word echoed off every wall. It crossed every border. It reached every hidden shelter and broken city. But Kale knew something else was coming. He could feel it in the way the blade still hummed. The war was not over yet. Asterisk. Kale rested inside a mobile camp set up near the battlefield. His body ached. From the duel, his arm was wrapped tightly, his ribs bruised. But his grip on the blade never loosened. The people outside the tent were building something new, not just walls or towers. They were building unity. Old flags were lowered. New symbols were drawn. The bearer had become more than a warrior. He had become a signal. Leaders from different regions started arriving. Some came by air. Others crossed broken roads. They didn't bring weapons. They brought questions. They wanted guidance. They wanted to hear Kale speak. Kale sat in silence. As the first group entered, a man with military medals stepped forward. The aliens are falling back, but they're not gone. Their mothership still floats above the capital. "What is your command?" Kale looked down at the blade. Its glow had dimmed since the duel, but it still pulsed with life. He raised his eyes. "We end this. We don't wait for another attack. We go to the mothership." There was hesitation in the room. Some doubted, some feared, but none argued. The blade had chosen. The bearer had spoken. The path was clear. A plan formed quickly. Engineers built air transports from old war machines. Scientists prepared shields powered by energy taken from the sword's pulse. Fighters trained night and day, watching every movement Kale made. On the third night, Kale walked alone into the ruins of a temple nearby. The sword guided him without words. Inside the temple, a wall opened, revealing a holographic figure. It was an old human, dressed in robes with light flowing from his eyes. "Bearer," the figure said, "you are the last of us, the last to hold what was born in the fire of the first age. You must know the truth before you climb to the sky." Kale stepped forward. "What truth?" The figure lifted a hand. The air shimmered and showed a map of the stars. The sword was not made by humans. It was forged by the ones who shaped planets. They left it here to watch. Every 100 years, it wakes to test your kind, to see if you are still worthy. Kale narrowed his eyes. "So all of this was a test?" "In part," the figure replied. "But the sword does more than judge. It records. It learns, and it warns. The last time it lit up, a darkness followed. That darkness is coming again." Kale stared at the glowing star map. A black mass was moving through space, slow and wide. It looked alive. It moved toward Earth's system, the aliens who fight. "You now fear what follows this blade." They tried to bury it, to end the cycle. But the cycle has already begun. Kale tightened his grip on the sword. "Then we stop the darkness before it reaches us." The hologram flickered. "The sword may help you once more. After that, your path will depend on your people." The temple sealed behind him as Kale stepped into the night. He returned to camp with fire in his eyes. The mission was no longer just about Earth. It was about time. It was about survival against something far older than war. The next morning, the humans launched. Giant aircraft lifted into the sky. Kale stood at the front of the lead ship, blade glowing, eyes fixed on the horizon. The capital floated in the distance, surrounded by alien defenses. Drones flew up to intercept. Kale stepped outside the ship and held up the blade. A burst of energy shot forward, cutting the sky in half. The drones exploded before they reached the fleet. One by one, the ships pushed forward. The world watched from screens and radios. Humanity was no longer hiding. They were coming to finish what had started with a single touch. And the bearer flew toward the stars with the weight of the world behind him. Kale stood on the front deck of the lead ship. The wind at this height was thin and sharp. The sky above him was no longer blue. It was silver and wide, with the alien mothership blocking the sun like a giant shadow. The ship was massive. Thousands of lights blinked across its curved surface. Its engines hummed low like a growl. Long tentacles of metal drifted beneath it, scanning the skies for threats. Kale tightened his grip on the blade. The glow was stronger now. The closer he got to the source, the more alive it became. It whispered without words. It warned without sound. Fighter crafts darted toward them. The human fleet responded with missiles and beams. Explosions lit up the sky. But Kale kept his eyes on the mothership. His target was not the drones. It was the mind that controlled them. The main gate of the mothership opened. A glowing path formed from the bottom to the top. It looked like an invitation. Or a challenge. Either way, Kale accepted it. He stepped off the ship and walked on the energy bridge. The wind whipped around him. Explosions rumbled behind him, but his focus was forward. Toward the heart of the enemy, inside the ship, the walls were alive. They shifted and pulsed with green veins and blinking lights. Kale walked through the corridor without hesitation. The sword lit his way like a torch in the dark. At the end of the hall, a door opened. Inside was a wide chamber. In the center stood a creature unlike the others. It was tall but not armored. Its skin shimmered like oil. Its eyes were deep pools of violet. "You are the one the blade chose," the alien said. "And now you bring its light into my domain." Kale nodded. "This ends now. No more hidden wars. No more whispers from the dark. I'm here to stop you." The alien tilted its head. "You think the blade chose you to fight me, but it chose you to understand. I am not your enemy. I am your warning." Kale raised his sword. "A warning doesn't destroy cities. A warning doesn't enslave Earth." The alien didn't move. "Your planet is marked, not by us, but by something deeper. We came to stop it, but we failed, so we waited. We tried to delay it by breaking the cycle, but the blade woke again. And now the darkness is coming faster." Kale stepped forward. "Then help us, or get out of the way." The alien slowly lowered its head. "There is one way, but it comes at a price. You must enter the core. You must speak to what sleeps inside. The blade can open the path, but you may not return." Kale took a deep breath. He looked at the sword. It pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. It was waiting for his decision. He nodded. "Then show me the core." The floor opened beneath them. A beam of light carried Kale down into the depths of the ship. The walls became darker. The lights dimmed. The hum of machines faded. Silence returned. Finally he reached the core. It was a sphere of crystal, suspended in the air. Inside the crystal, a shape floated. It was not alien, it was human. Or something close to it. Kale stepped forward. The blade lifted on its own and pointed at the crystal. A sound like cracking ice filled the air. Light spilled from the center as the sphere opened. The figure inside opened its eyes. They were the same color as the blade's glow. Blue, ancient. A voice filled the room. "You are the bearer. Then you are ready to listen." And Kale listened as the truth of Earth's place in the stars was finally revealed. Asterisk, the figure in the crystal was neither dead nor alive. It floated with stillness, yet its voice echoed through the core. Its face resembled a human, but its features were older than time. It wore no armor, no crown, but its presence was more powerful than anything Kale had felt before. "I am the first bearer," it said. "The blade you hold was once mine. I forged peace before war touched your world. I warned the stars of what was coming. But now the warning must become a choice." Kale stood still. The sword in his hand glowed brighter, pulsing faster. The core around him began to change. Images formed in the air. Entire galaxies swallowed by black storms. Planets burned without fire. Civilizations erased like drawings in sand. The voice continued. The darkness comes not from one race or one weapon. It is hunger. It is silence. It is the end of memory. And now it draws near your son. You have two paths. One will save Earth. The other may save all. Kale narrowed his eyes. What are the paths? The first bearer's hand pointed to the blade. If you strike the core, Earth will be sealed, hidden from the stars. The darkness will not find it for another 1,000 years. Your people will live. But alone, a second path formed beside the first. If you raise the blade to the stars, it will become a beacon. Others will come. They will follow your voice. You may form a shield, a fleet, a future. But the darkness will know where to strike. Kale clenched his jaw. One path led to survival, the other to unity. One meant safety in silence. The other meant war in the open. He thought of the people back on Earth, the girl who called him a king, the soldiers who followed him through fire, the leaders who waited for his signal. They had already chosen to believe. Kale lifted the sword slowly. It lit the entire chamber in a wave of light. The first bearer closed his eyes and nodded. Then, your story becomes legend. Speak, bearer. Speak your truth into the stars. Kale turned and faced the heavens. The core opened a window to the sky. The stars stretched out forever. He raised the blade high and shouted, "We are not afraid. We are not alone. Let the stars hear us." The blade exploded in light. A beam shot into space, cutting through clouds and metal. The signal reached every ship, every planet, every hidden eye watching Earth. It was not a cry for help. It was a call to stand. The alien mothership shook. But it did not fall. It powered down. Its commanders stepped back. They had seen enough. The war was over. The bearer had chosen a path no weapon could stop. Kale returned to the surface in silence. The people surrounded him, waiting for his words. He looked at them all, not as a leader, but as one of them. "It's not just our world anymore," he said. "It's our turn to rise. Not to hide, to build, to lead, to become more than what we were." The crowd did not cheer. They stood in silence. Then, slowly, hands rose in the air. One by one, people raised their fists. Not to fight, but to stand united. Across cities, across oceans, across planets that had once been enemies. Years passed. Earth changed. New stars appeared in the night sky. Ships moved between worlds. The blade was sealed in a tower of glass, glowing still, waiting for the next bearer. And Kale's name became more than a legend. It became a beginning.